Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 8th of March. Every week I look at the charts for a few different stocks as requested by you. Just email us at mail@fairmontequities.com. There's a limit of one per person and no guarantee that your stock will be covered. Also, just make sure you share this video on Twitter and Facebook. Just hit those share buttons. The more requests we get, the more chance we have to uncover some great opportunities. Also, just take note of our disclaimer. Any advice is general only. First stock we have is Ramsey Healthcare. So this is a weekly chart going back about 4 years. If I just zoom out a bit more, you can see that clearly it's had a fantastic run over the last several years, peaking just over $80, but now it has been struggling over the last sort of 18 months. If I zoom back in, look, there's a couple of negative points, and I suppose there's negative and positive points about this particular chart. I guess the negatives are that the sell downs recently have been fairly sharp compared to the moves higher. But also, on a positive note, if I zoom out, we can also see that the overall decline from that $80 peak, which occurred in mid-2016, we can see that the overall decline has been, I guess, fairly slow in comparison to the recent uptrend. So we can see here over the last 4 or 5 years, it's come up at a nice rate of knots, and the pullback's been fairly slow. Even if we just have a look at, the last time that Ramsey was under $60, we can see that in the space of, it looks like about 6 months, it went from about 60 to 80, but now it's taken 18 months to get to the low 60s. So overall, that's not too bad, and we can see that there probably is quite a bit of support here around that $60 mark. So the negatives, the sharp sell-offs. The positive is that it hasn't really been flattened by the bears. It's not getting sold off at a rate of knots. So given that it's close to this $60 support level, I'd be pretty happy to hold it. And I guess I'd be looking for, in terms of buying, I'd be looking for a rebound off this level as a buying opportunity. Okay, the next one that we have is A2 Milk. It's obviously had a fantastic run. It's been a bit of a funny chart. I have to admit that I found it difficult to, I guess, get my head around what this stock might do when I just look at the chart. So what I'm doing is I've got the weekly chart here, and I'm just going back to, we can see a couple of years ago where A2 Milk had this fantastic run up, got sold off at levels just above $2, and it did it again and then started to come back. So at the time this did look a little bit negative, but it managed to, I guess, retest that $2 mark and couldn't really push through it too strongly. So it didn't look massively bullish on the chart, but you turn your back and you come you turn your back, and before you know it, it's just continued to edge higher. So so it's been an interesting one, but tough one to read in my opinion. Now we've had another sort of massive run up, similar to a couple of years ago. If I just move to a daily chart, we could see that obviously the latest profit results were well received, gapped up on that particular day, gapped up again, saw plenty of profit taking, and hasn't been able to overcome that. So it's struggling. I mean, it is on lower volume. So at the moment it's a bit neutral. And I think what we'll probably see is something similar to a couple of years ago. So if I go back to the weekly chart and I scroll over to, as you could see, 2016, we'll probably see something similar to this. So where we are now with A2 Milk looks similar to where we are here, and it might just need to use up a bit more time before it gets going again. Okay, the next one we have is Bubs, B-U-B. So we'll just okay, so starting from 2017, we can see it's had had a great run, 10 cents up to $1. Obviously a lot more volatile. We can see that it has a massive run and then gets sold into, another massive run, gets sold into. I couldn't place this in the same category as A2 milk, which has had a very nice steady uptrend. This is not a very, I guess, sustainable uptrend, and you've got a stock that in the space of a couple of weeks doubles in value, and then all the sellers come in. So not one I'd be entirely comfortable with. I'm just moving to a daily chart, going back about the last year. So yeah, huge price movements. I think if you can sort of catch these sorts of moves up, you could probably ride them for several days. But as I said, they're just not sustainable. And I'm not familiar with the company fundamentally, but I'm guessing you get these news announcements that everyone starts extrapolating all these wonderful things, and then it gets sold into again. So the most recent move up in February was pretty impulsive, and we can see the big volume there, which is good. So notice the really low volume as it was drifting down. So if I had this on my watch list and I saw it gap up here on big volume, that would have been a buy signal for me. But you could see that basically, you need to trade it, and that's what's happening with this stock. It's in the hands of the traders. So look, at the moment it's coming back. Volume has been lower the last few days. Wait for another move up on volume, and then you could probably trade that to the upside. All right, moving to the other end of the spectrum, BHP. I have been covering this one a bit recently, but happy to have another look at it. So my view from a number of weeks ago is that BHP should come back towards sort of the low 28s. So another quick recap, it seems to respect a 38.2% retracement. It's done a number of times, but if we have a look most recently, sort of a nice run up here, pulled back to 38.2, got going again. And just switch to a daily chart. And again, if we have a look at let's see this rally here, back to 38.2. If we have a look at the overall rally, this is where I'm getting the low 28s, which coincidentally is pretty much testing this high and sitting on top of the 2017 high. So it all makes a bit of sense that that's what BHP should do. So we're looking at some congestion here. We had that fantastic run at the end of last year. So anyone who would listen to me, I was saying that BHP should have a run into the 30s. And after taking some profits here near 31, a lot of our clients are looking to get back in closer to the low 28s. So despite these big moves up here, just be patient. You should see it at that buy zone. Okay, Monadelphous. So 2016-17, great run up, then started to get a bit wobbly. The danger sign for me was sort of this cluster here. So we had a bit of a sell-off, and then it tried to rally, and this week in particular looked bullish, but then it got sold down. Tried to bounce, and even this particular week, so this is obviously a weekly chart, we could see the price rejection. So these few weeks here were a bit of a warning sign, and then we can see the shares got belted the last couple of weeks. Looks like about almost 20% from these levels. So overall this does look negative, although I think short term we could see a bounce. What I've noticed is sort of similar to BHP in that we've got, firstly it's come back to the 38.2% retracement. So that's one thing. The other is if I just zoom in and have a closer look at this three-wave decline, it'd be interesting to see, so we've got A, B, C. It'd be interesting to see if C is 1.6 times wave A, So that's A. There we go. It's pretty much 1.6 times. So we've got a great ABC correction there. On the RSI, it looks like it's, on a daily basis that is, a bit oversold. Of course, it could stay oversold for quite a while. So you need, if you're looking at turning points using an RSI, you need to see it come back through the 30. At the moment, it's in the 20. It's about 25. And I'm just sort of zooming out on a daily, and we can see that it's the most oversold it's been for a while. So I'd expect some sort of bounce back up towards $17. You know, whether this is a three wave that's completely over and it's going to resume the uptrend, it's hard to say. This could be part. I'll go back to a weekly. This ABC could be one big A wave. In other words, we have A, B, and then C. So we could just see Monadelphous use up a lot more time first. So if you want to trade the bounce, I think it'll be fairly short. I think if you get towards 17, I'd be tempted to sell into that, and then wait and see what it does, if it needs to use up some more time or not. Okay, we have Resolute Mining. This looks quite interesting. So on a daily basis, we've had this nice move up here. Seems to be a bit of resistance there, which it's now trying to push through. So that's looking pretty good. So if I was looking to trade this, I'd be tempted to grab a bit here and add to it a little bit later. When will that be? So looking at a weekly chart, so we've got this low here in 2016. We can see that it's rallied from $1 to about $1.90 in this short space of time. And then it's taken about a year for it to go all the way back and retest this low. So we could see a very nice retest here, and as you'll notice, it's, yeah, as I said, taken a long time to retest that, and we could see that the selling's really started to taper off. So initially it was quite sharp, and then it started to round out, and then it's jumped off that. So it's jumped off that, using up a bit of time. What I'd like to see is the shares head through this level here. So in other words, from this peak, we've had a series of lower highs. I want to see our first higher high. So happy to buy it here as a trade. If it pushes through here and makes a higher high, that's a positive. And if we just throw up our Fibonacci tool, I mean, it's, you know, potentially we're looking at $1.50 as that sort of basic target price, but that's not to say it can't push even higher. So yeah, looking very interesting, Resolute. Okay, the final one that we have is a stock called Zillow, listed on the NASDAQ. So I'm just going to switch over to my US charts. Now I'm happy to have a look at US stocks as well, because we now offer trading in US stocks. So if you're interested in trading US stocks, let me know. We've put a few interesting ones on recently for clients that are doing pretty well. Coincidentally, they all seem to be on the NASDAQ, Twitter and so on. So the stock I've been asked about, final one today, Zillow Group, ZG, listed on the NASDAQ. This is a weekly chart, just zooming out. So clearly it's breaking through here. So we've got 2014 peak near $15, fell away, tested that in 2017, got sold off, it's come back, it's pushed through. I guess the only negative is that I probably would have preferred that it used up a little bit more time under here to get rid of some selling. So I wouldn't be surprised if it does see a little bit of selling up at this point to come back for a retest. So I wouldn't necessarily treat this breakout as my stop loss level. It might even just come a little bit sort of deeper here. So it might come back and try to use up some time. As long as it doesn't get comprehensively smack down from these higher levels. In other words, if we see it sort of push through 45 and even lower in the space of a few days, as long as it sort of comes back in a more steady way and use up a bit more time, then I think we could see some decent upside from this one. Okay, well that's it for today. Remember, send in your requests. I'll have a look next week, and do the right thing and share this video on social media.